Mighty Ape is Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore with everything from movies, music, games, toys, books, hobbies and more. Mighty Ape is your one-stop shop for the things that matter most. They constantly have hot deals and exclusive promos. And if you visit their website on the click-through banner on fakechef.net's homepage, then your purchase will help support Good Movie Monday. Mighty Ape, Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning? What do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind. Your friends won't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine. Mate, were you a fan of Biodome? That's my question.
Who's not? Who? I don't know anyone who wasn't a fan of Biodome. That's when I first learnt the difference between the Spider-Man theme song and Iron Man.
That sequence where the military play the safety dance to flush them out of the biodome, but then they just come out of the bush dancing? That's comedy gold in my mind. Hey, here's a piece of trivia for you. Did you know that it was originally believed for a long time that Biodome was created from a rejected script from Bill and Ted 3?
No, I didn't. I was actually thought for a second you were going to say it was like Die Hard. It was the rejected script for Commando 3.
Well, there may still be some truth to this. Alex Winter, from Bill and Ted, has recently come on the record to doubt that information, but he didn't dispute it.
But did he direct Biodome? Alex Winter?
No, but he would know if the script was originally a Bill and Ted film.
Right.
He doesn't think so.
Yeah.
Which
He
means
even
it's
got
probably true.
Like, it could have just been a submission to the studio and they went, no, we're not doing this one. No, it never got to the actors. It's not like,
No.
well, we thought the script was shit, but Keanu loves it, so,
So who knows? Bill and Ted 3 may have been Biodome.
Well, I mean, that would have been awesome. But I don't know how you work time travel into Biodome.
Well, it just doesn't have to be time travel.
Yeah. But can it be a Bill and Ted movie without time travel? Like, take away the phone box and it's not like Get Smart. Get Smart survives without the phone box. I don't know if Bill and Ted survives without the time travel.
Hey, did Bogus Journey have time travel in it? That was just to heaven and hell, wasn't it?
I guess no, don't they? No, they don't go back in time. No, that's right. They go up into space and stuff and hang out with Station, and then they play games with death.
Therefore, it's totally doable.
It's totally doable. I guess you're right. But do they use the phone booth to get there? They must.
Yeah, the phone booth is in all.
Is
of
it
them.
just because they damage the aerial?
That's
And
in,
so
that's in the first one.
You're right.
Oh, jeez. Welcome to Good Movie Monday, the podcast presented by fakeshemp.net, home of the nerdy cinematic ramblings. It is a pleasure to be here with you for another week. My name is Glenn Cochran. I have a crush on Monica Bellucci. And opposite me is Ben Helwig, who has a crush on...
Teresa Hill from Biodome.
It wouldn't be Alexandra Daddario.
I would be Alexandra Daddario. I forgot that you asked me this question earlier, and I just totally blanked. Yes, it is Alexandra Daddario.
I was going to throw you under the bus with Maggie Smith.
Oh, have you seen the... what's that? Is that one where she plays the horny biddy? Woman in a Van. No. No, the private life of Jean Brody, I think, is the one.
You have picked a fun
Travels with my
episode
aunt.
to listen to. Although we would hope that all of our episodes are fun episodes, there are two reasons to stick around for this one. Firstly, we will be featuring an exclusive interview with Clayton Jacobson, who is the writer and director of the cult Aussie film Kenny and the fantastic dark comedy Brothers Nests. He has an exciting new studio set up called Dreamscreen, and we're going to be talking about that. And then there's the fact that this is our trivia episode. We've done it before. We're doing it again. We have lots of fun facts and did you knows for today. So
I was going to say, it actually is. It's a different kind of trivia episode, because the other trivia episodes were us trying to stump each other. This one is more of a did you know episode.
Yes, that's true. That is true, but it's trivia nonetheless.
It's trivia nonetheless. It's trivial. Trivial trivia, if my list of trivia is anything to go by.
And our friends are here for their weekly contributions. They need no introduction, but if you're new to the show, I'll introduce them. In a few minutes, we have your home entertainment update from Jarrett Gunn from Monster Fest. Then a little later on, Guillermo Troncoso will run you through some recent movie reviews from Screen Realm. Adam Ross from the Australian Film Critics Association will be looking at another 5-star recommendation, and the guys from Bonehead Weekly in Kentucky will throw some more trivia at ya. It's a fun one, so strap in because we're about to launch. All right, let us get the ball rolling with our first piece of trivia. Here's one for you, Ben. This is a twofer.
Ooh.
So when Kevin Costner's Waterworld flopped so spectacularly, the movie was dubbed by many as Kevin's Gate, which I love. But then a year later, when The Postman was in production, the crew referred to that film as Dust World. Completely out of earshot from Costner himself, obviously.
The thing is, I enjoy both those films thoroughly.
I love them, and I think they've appreciated with time.
Yeah.
I think The Waterworld flopped mainly because of just the production story.
I mean, I think with the amount of money they spent on it too, it couldn't help but flop.
Yep. Yeah.
It was just like it was overblown, and then he was fired the director and all that sort of stuff.
A director he had worked successfully with several times.
Yeah.
Strange.
He's just got a different idea of where the film is going, I guess. But it's actually I think take out the action set pieces, which I can take or leave in movies. Really, don't get me wrong, I like a good action set piece, but I don't think that's the movie. I think that's just the bits in between the stuff you actually kind of care about. And I Waterworld is great. Like it is like it's not a fistful of dollars, but it is like a kind of a stranger in a strange land kind of.
Well, there is
kind of movie.
You may want to fact check this piece of trivia. In fact, I insist you fact check this piece of trivia. But it was believed that Waterworld began as an abandoned Mad Max script.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it is far superior to Mad Max Fury Road.
Far
superior.
I think that the concept of the world being covered in water was just too far fetched for the time frame of Mad Max, the canon.
Although it does make sense because if the theory about global warming is true, what happens is that first everything heats up, and then everything gets flooded. True. That's exactly what happens. Like it is, it seems contradictory for the, why are we in jeopardy of flooding when the ozone layer is crumbling and temperatures are rising?
Yeah.
Because the polar ice caps will melt, and then everything will disappear underwater.
Everything about all of that. The fact that he drinks his own piss is all I remember.
It is a great scene. And then I remember John Safran doing it on the great race or whatever it was on Channel 2.
All right, hit us up with your first piece of trivia.
See, mine's not as good as yours. I had so Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, written by William Goldman, was actually originally called The Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy, but they swapped it around when Paul Newman, who at the time was the biggest movie star in the world, took the role of Butch Cassidy.
Do you think the film would have been successful the other way around?
I don't look. It probably wouldn't have mattered. But
kind of rolls off your tongue.
It does definitely works. It does roll off a lot better as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as opposed to the Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy. It doesn't. And I couldn't tell you why. It's just the way the words sound. But yeah, I always thought that was an interesting.
And originally the song was called "Falling on My Head Raindrops."
Comma. Falling on my head, comma, raindrops.
That's right. I hope you're taking...
It was like a haiku.
I hope you're taking notes at home. This is invaluable stuff we're giving you here. If ever you have to organise a trivia night, look no further. Wow.
What was the original title of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance? It's actually a pretty good, like a Jeopardy question. What is the Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy? Correct.
Well, when it comes to things being released on physical media, also look no further because Jarrett's got you covered.
Hey, this is Jarrett and welcome to PE class. Now, it's been a quiet couple of weeks for home entertainment, so you better be prepared for a deluge. And that's right, the distributors are going to hit you where it hurts, right in the fucking wallet. And it's going to hurt bad because there's some good stuff coming out this week on home entertainment. Let's kick it off with Disney, they're releasing Soul on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray and DVD. Now, if you've got Disney Plus, you possibly already watched this as it dropped on the service around Christmas time. It was due to go theatrical, but then Disney made the decision globally to release it to Disney Plus, and not even as a premium film, just as a standard subscriber, film, and it must have been a move to try and get those sub numbers up. In any case, it obviously worked because a lot of people have seen it and are raving about it. Not only great critical raves, but just good audience raves. And Disney are going to go to town on this home entertainment release, and I'm happy I waited because I'll be picking up the 4K Ultra HD. It is stacked with special features. It's got commentaries, deleted scenes, featurettes. It is completely loaded. There's some short films on there also. Then, coming out from Roadshow, first to market anywhere in the world, they're releasing Superintelligence. This is the Melissa McCarthy, James Corden film that came out in cinemas here in Australia late last year. In America, it just went straight to HBO Max. And this film I haven't seen, and I don't know if it's a stinker, but I know it sat on the shelf for a while because they were doing test screenings for the movie when I was in the States in 2017. Then they were doing test screenings for it again in 2018, and then somehow it finally crawled out of a dark place in 2020 and headed straight to HBO Max. In any case, Roadshow's dropped the ball and they're only releasing it on DVD. If they'd released it on Blu-ray, they probably could have made a lot of export sales. But anyway, it's coming out on DVD from them. Also coming out, a film that debuted on HBO Max in the United States, but then released theatrically here in Australia, is Robert Zemeckis' adaptation of Roald Dahl's The Witches. That's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, and the Blu-ray actually has special features. There's like deleted scenes and featurettes on that. Then Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment will be releasing 3 quality titles, the first of which is Arch Enemy, a new feature from the director of Daniel Isn't Real, Adam Egypt Mortimer. And it's like an indie superhero film, and it's quite good. It's sans special features, unfortunately, but that's okay because the US release only had like an EPK on it, so it's not a big deal. Then the other 2 releases coming out are Studio Canal titles also, and they are from 4K restorations. They've been out on Blu-ray before, but they have not been the 4K restoration. So there's Breathless, the Jean-Luc Godard film, and then the Ealing comedy, The Lady Killers. Now, both of these titles have actually had 4K releases in the UK. However, they're only going to get Blu-ray locally, but they have only been released in like these deluxe editions in the UK, where you've pretty much got to pay around about somewhere between 70 to 100 Australian dollars for them. So the fact that they're coming out on Blu-ray locally, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, they're only going to cost you about 16 a piece, and they're probably going to be in like everyone's, JB Hi-Fi and Sanity's 2 for $30 before you know it. Anyway, the last release that's coming out is from Umbrella Entertainment. It's a theatrical feature they released in December of last year, and it's Roderick Mckay's The Furnace. Now, this film received strong critical praise. It premiered at Venice in October of last year. I haven't seen it, but I'm actually quite keen to check it out, and Umbrella have put special features on this one also, as well as releasing actually on DVD and Blu-ray, which is great. When an Australian film comes out on Blu-ray and it's a new release film, that's always terrific, but there's a couple featurettes on there. And that's it for me for this week. That's a stack of releases, and I'm only giving you the highlights too. So until next time, stay physical.
Thank you, Jarrett. We're hoping that Jarrett will join us live at the desk sometime over the next few weeks. So, everyone just bombard him with messages. Tell him he has to.
He lives so far away from you, Glenn. So far away from the studio, and he doesn't drive.
It's about time that we started getting some of the guys on for a chinwag at the desk, I reckon.
Yeah. Especially, let's get the Sydney-siders down.
Yeah, that's right. I've put that invitation has been extended. Yes. Anyway, on with the good stuff. We've got more useless information to unload on you. I've got one.
All right.
The original script for Clerks, Dante was supposed to die at the end of the movie.
He wasn't even supposed to be there that day.
Exactly, and that's the gag. So that version of the film had a robber shoot him, and then the title card comes up saying he wasn't even supposed to be there today. I think that's a good ending.
They never actually say, or do they, who the person who was supposed to be there that day was?
Never revealed.
Is it the owner? Or who was it? So who's he covering for? Or, I can't remember if there's something at the start.
No, he's on a phone call,
With that person. No, because he comes in and opens the shop.
He talks to the owner, I think, and doesn't the owner want him to stay the whole day?
Yeah.
What a movie. What a great story of an independent film.
Debut film, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. He went to the same film school I did in Canada, at the Vancouver Film School, but he dropped out one semester in.
Right. I didn't know that he went to film school at all.
Yeah, he went back to Jersey after that. Even though one semester's all he lasted, the corridors of that school aligned with Kevin Smith posters.
Alumni Kevin Smith with an honorary degree.
Which
for
I
Kevin
think,
Smith.
like 20 years later, he went back and completed, honorarily.
Yeah. Well, that's who was it that I read that got their degree?
Steven Spielberg, yeah.
Yeah. 33 years later, Schindler's List is my graduation
Yeah,
film.
he handed in Schindler's List as his
I wonder if he.
final
Though,
film.
I don't know if you can though. Like I don't know if you read. Like I know at least at Deakin, it clearly states in your
You're
enrollment
comparing Deakin.
to well no any I just mean by
Yeah.
any university, but at Deakin it does say that any work that you create there as a student is actually owned by the university. And we had this trouble with Ray Bosley when we released Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em.
Yes.
We wanted to put some of his earlier shorts in there,
Yeah.
and we had to get approval from RMIT and Swinburne
Mhm.
to include them because technically, even though they were homework created by him,
Mhm.
they're owned by the
Yep.
university. So does Cal Arts or SoCal or wherever Spielberg went, do they own Schindler's List now?
Well, I learnt that lesson all too well when I was at RMIT and I lost all of my student films to them.
Right.
Yeah, haven't been able to get them back.
I'm surprised they don't let you have access. Like it.
Yeah, well, I just don't care about them anymore. But But
Sons
the
of
people
bitches.
that I was involved with back then have gone on to some big things. You got what's the guy? Oh, I've forgotten his name. Scott Ryan. Scott Ryan went on to do The Magician and then Mr. In Between in America. He was sort of there, and Jason Turley has gone on to do a few things, and the obviously James Wan Lee Winnell were a year before me, and they went on to huge things.
Huge things.
So it's just I was in that crowd at the time. It was just I'd like to get them back for that reason, just to sort of see who might have been in there that I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your next one?
Did you know that Psycho was the first American film to feature a flushing toilet?
Yes, I did.
Like, could you tell I got that one off a movie trivia website? I'm like, I don't know what else I get.
That's a great piece of. I mean, that's a
But it is
shocking detail.
I always thought it was 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I'm trying to think. Does he actually? That's not an American film. I guess it's a British film. But I'm pretty sure that he flushes the toilet he goes to the toilet in the space station. But I could be wrong.
It's like his shit get flushed out into.
It's just it's like a shitberg, like Meet Joe Dirt, floating through space. This giant shitberg.
That was probably in the what's the 2001 Space Travesty.
That was Leslie Nielsen just gets chonked in the head with it. Isn't that's what 2002 or what's the sequel?
No, 2010.
2010 is about. It comes back. That's what the dome. That's what the thing is. That
The monolith.
monolith is just a shitberg.
My God, it's full of turds. Oh man, did you know? Just an added piece of trivia that Tom Hanks owns all the rights to the sequels to those books because he wanted to produce all of Arthur C. Clarke's 2000 stories.
Right.
Yeah, so there's 2 more to go, and I don't think we'll ever see that.
I mean, yeah. Look, quite frankly, I'd rather see a sequel to That Thing You Do, but yeah,
That would not be a cheap property to purchase
I wouldn't have thought so.
for the possibility of never actually doing anything with them.
Yeah, and it's not like it's just like the option where you go, here's $1,000 just
Yeah.
just in case I can get something happening. Like he'd have to pay proper money.
Because he also bought the rights to the City of Ember books, which off the mic we were talking about earlier, that they made one film with Bill Murray and Saoirse Ronan and just never did the sequels.
It's a funny one too. That was one of the first Blu-rays that we got in a DVD collection when I managed it, and on the TV in the store there, when you put a Blu-ray in, it comes up with the TV would come up with the quality, whatever it is.
Yep.
So it would say like 570p or whatever it is.
Yep.
And City of Ember on the back says 1080p. You put that thing in, and the logo of whoever produced it, Warner or
Yep.
Universal or whoever it was, that's 1080p. The movie starts 720p, my friends.
No.
And you're like, Jesus, they've really pulled the wool over some people's eyes with this piece of shit.
Yes, it's a good film though. I like that one. Books.
I
obviously-
get, to be honest, I get it mixed up with Flushed Away, the cartoon.
You're obsessed with flushing.
It's all about toilets. I just want it. It was just a callback.
Haven't got the nanny in here,
It
have
was
you?
I worked on that. I worked on that callback, all of 2 seconds in my head before I said it.
I hope somebody out there appreciated my nanny.
Your
gag.
nanny joke.
All right, here's another one for you. Not really juicy though, but Shane Black. He wrote the script for The Last Boy Scout whilst on downtime shooting The Predator.
Well, what else is he going to do?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say it was a great
Like
piece of trivia.
Because I mean, like, you know, you often think, like, what do the writers do on set? Like, sometimes they're punching dialogue up and stuff like that. But I've been on a couple of film sets, and the writers are like they're.
But he didn't write. He didn't write Predator. Shane.
Oh no,
Black.
that's right. He's just in it.
Yeah, and
That's
he's
right.
not. He's a side character.
Yeah, he gets. He's like is he the first one killed? I think he's the first
I
one.
think
He's the one that gets skinned up in the trees, right?
Yeah, and I believe he wrote all of his dirty jokes in that film because he says
Yeah.
some pretty gross jokes in that film that are hilarious.
My one's as big as a house. Big as a house.
Which he tried to recreate in his Predator film that he directed.
Predators, yeah.
Yeah, he tried to put that kind of stuff back in
Well,
there,
that
and
Predator.
it just
It's not actually a predator.
that
It's,
Predator. It's a bio freaking.
No. What's what's the joke in that? Like they kill you. Technically, he's not a
He's a
predator.
hunter.
He's a hunter.
Yeah. See what I mean? It just didn't float.
I thoroughly enjoyed that film. Like, I love Fred Dekker and Shane Black.
I feel really bad for Fred Dekker because, like, you know, his career kind of took a nosedive after RoboCop 3. He was never able to sort of build himself back up. This opportunity finally came along. It's a big opportunity, and it tanks.
I had nothing but fun through that entire film. So, you know, there's a lot of people who were kind of like nitpicking at stuff, and I'm like, oh, God, just sit back and enjoy it.
I was one. I nitpicked it at first, but then second viewing, like the value of the film came out.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, this is a fun film. Yes, it's not.
I mean, look,
It's not on the same level as the other Predator films.
and the reality is, and I don't want to put myself down here, but even because I believe it was R-rated. Is that right?
At one point, I think it got
R-rated or MA 15.
it got
plus.
reduced to MA.
But it is like an MA 15 plus, but it's actually for 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's for or 10-year-olds who are watching something they're not really allowed to watch. But
Yeah.
that's who those movies like Commando and Predator and Terminator and stuff, like, they're good films, but they're good films when you're 20 years old, but they're much better when you're 10 years old, and half the stuff is going over your head, but it's just awesome to be watching
Your
something
point
you're not
is
allowed to.
proven. So those films from the 80s, like your even your Die Hards, you've got your Commandos, all these sort of the R-rated ones, particularly Cobra,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Total Recall.
People like us look back with such fondness of those films, but at the time we were only 9 or 10 when we watched
Yeah,
them. Like
that's
that's
right.
exactly what you're saying. Yeah, look, it's a fun movie, but it's your turn for a little bit of trivia.
Okay, well, this one's a fun one. I'm shocked that Christian Bale admitted to this, although I don't think he said it. I think it was the director of American Psycho said that Christian Bale developed the character's personality after watching a Tom Cruise interview with David Letterman. He said he was aggressively friendly with nothing behind the eyes.
Mary Harron, and she
Mary Harron.
confirmed that. I interviewed her last year, and she
Right.
confirmed that. Yeah, because I was interviewing her for the Charlie Says film,
Yeah.
and I had to go back and talk about this is another killer movie you made, and yeah, she talked all about the Christian Bale stuff and where the inspiration came from, and Tom Cruise was definitely mentioned.
It was definitely it. And you look back and you're like that, definitely the couch jumping stuff. And it's like watching someone who is now so far removed from normal people
They've
that
transcended.
it's now you're watching an actor pretend to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But then, like, I did hear a pretty good interview with I can't remember his name, but the guy who wrote the game. Prior to writing the game, he was a journalist for Variety and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's what he is
Yeah.
still. But he interviewed Tom Cruise. Maybe this is the opening chapter of the game, which is an embarrassing thing to admit that I've read. But he does talk about how, like, when he interviewed Tom Cruise, like, Tom Cruise makes friends on movie sets.
Yeah.
And like, he is 100% dedicated to making movies, and that's his whole life. But his whole life, he still is Tom Cruise. So that's his social circle. That's how like, as an adult, you make friends at work. You don't really.
Yeah.
Or like as a kid, you make them at school. Like, there's
When
a sporting thing, but you don't really, like, otherwise you don't meet many other people, and so that's Tom Cruise's kind of social circle
when he's not making disciples.
And so I guess when he's when he's on like a talk show, like David Letterman or something like that, like
he can't relate.
Yeah, because who is this guy? Like, he doesn't know Dave.
He thinks we all jump on couches like a maniac.
What is on Oprah? He
He's
couldn't
like
contain himself.
Beavis and Butthead
I
sketch.
I thought like I thought the reaction to that was a bit full on.
Oh, it was, but it was meme worthy. That's why. Like it just it was that clip, that 10-second footage was just it was a news cycle.
I mean, it's the same as the Leave Britney Alone guy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're like,
Moments are captured.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think we're just
and
amused.
exploited by snarky
Of course.
snarky people on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, and that's where it all went wrong
Yeah.
for the world. In National Treasure, all of the good guys use Google and all the bad guys use Yahoo. How good's that?
That's a great bit. I mean, so it's Sean Bean. I mean, I would imagine that Sean Bean is someone who uses Yahoo in real life.
Sean Bean,
Or
who must walk up a
actually-
mountain and not take a helicopter? That
yeah.
same Sean Bean?
Actually, I would think that Sean Bean doesn't use Yahoo. Sean Bean's assistant uses Yahoo because I don't think Sean Bean goes anywhere near a
He
computer.
uses a Nokia.
Yeah, a non-smartphone. He's got a beeper. Sean
That's right.
Bean is the beeper king of.
How many phones does he have?
How many phones?
There can be only one.
There can be any way. 100%.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that does not surprise me, but it's pretty good.
Hmm.
What was the other one? Was it on Aliens? All the androids are they're all like they're all alphabetical. Like all of David is the last one.
Right.
Michael Fassbender is David, and before that it's I can't remember the.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yep.
I can't remember what the Ian Holm character's name is
In Alien.
in Alien.
Yep.
And then Bishop in Aliens, and
Damn.
who's in? Is there an?
Is it lazy or clever?
I don't even know. Sometimes I think is it even conscious? Like it's just like a coincidence.
All right, lay another one on me.
Okay, so this is a good one. I like this one. So Charles Bronson, he met his wife Jill Ireland on the set of The Great Escape, and at the time she was married to David McCallum. And he told David McCallum he was like, one day I'm going to marry her. 3 years later, he did, and they were together until she passed.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
She made a great escape.
I think because she had 2 kids with McCallum and an adopted daughter, I think, and then she had another 2 kids with Bronson.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know if nowhere on the internet could I find that if did she have an affair with Bronson and that's why she split up with McCallum. Like I don't know if she wanted to have anything to do with him.
What's this
at the
internet
time.
you talk of? You got your information from the internet?
I get my Charles Bronson information from the internet. I repeatedly tried to contact him in a seance, and I actually found something on the internet popped up on my feed about his because he had a house in Los Angeles like all movie stars do, but he also had this massive kind of mansion in Vermont.
Yep.
And that was in '94 or maybe 2004. It went up for sale. And it's got like one of those places that have an indoor equestrian, oval kind of with 20 stables and all this kind of stuff. It's like this massive.
That's where shootouts happen in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was actually a movie that happens in.
The end of Wolf,
Michael Caine? Yeah, the Holcroft Covenant.
Oh,
He has there is like the pot shot. He goes to visit this millionaire who lives who has like one of those indoor equestrian things, and the guy's riding his horse, and then Nazis are taking pot shots at him.
Dang.
I know that could have been. They could have shot that at Charles Bronson's house.
Yes, it could have.
In Vermont.
Wow. All right, I got another.
Or something. What's another American state starting with V? I think it's
Virginia.
Could be Virginia. I don't. It's not one of my facts. I didn't have it written down. Relying on my memory.
Hey, the actors that played Mickey and Minnie Mouse in the 80s and 90s were married in real life.
Wow.
Yes, so that's Wayne Allwine and Russie Taylor.
I always thought. I was going to say I thought it was Mickey Rooney, but Mickey Rooney was just
the name.
Mickey, the name and stuff was based on Mickey Rooney.
That's even come up as a bit of whether or not that's true.
Was it Mickey Rooney the one telling the
yes,
story?
Yes, that's right. And apparently, he said that
he star.
Yeah, he said that he sat on Walt Disney's knee and Walt Disney asked, "What's your name, little boy?" And Mickey. Because Mickey Mouse was originally Mortimer Mouse, just for a bit of context there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, anyway.
Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't a Willie at all. He was a Mortimer.
It was a Mortimer. It was a Morty.
He was a Morty. Morty Mouse.
Hey, Morty.
That's got a good ring to it. Morty Mouse.
Yeah.
Should have stuck with it.
Why not? Well, why don't you can take it now.
Yeah.
You can just animate your own, like with Flash or something, some other outdated internet software.
I'll get Nathan
After Effects.
Armstrong onto it.
Yeah. That'd be great. I mean, it'd be cancelled within 5 seconds, but it would be amazing during that 5 seconds.
All right. One more from you.
Okay. Yeah. Did you know that in 1984, prior to his big break in Bloodsport, Van Damme was actually set to star in a movie with Weng Weng?
What?
Yeah, but I can't remember the name of the other guy, but he had a falling out. The other guy was Van Damme was not going to be the lead.
Yeah.
But the other guy had a falling out with Weng Weng, and they went their separate ways, and the movie fell apart. So Van Damme was stuck, breakdancing in Breakdance 2, Electric Boogaloo, and
Incredible.
stuff until he could become a rising star in canon. Through canon. That
is sadly the movie we will never see.
We'll never see. I mean, it would have been amazing.
Yes. Oh, good old Weng Weng.
Weng Weng and Van Damme. The buddy cop movie that had to happen.
Amazing. All right, let's apply the brakes just for a moment. We'll check in with Guillermo, whose Screen Round update is a little bit different this week on account of prevailing circumstances that have forced us to record this show well in advance. But you'd never know, would you?
What's happening, everybody? It's Guillermo here again from ScreenRealm.com, Australia's favourite entertainment website covering all things movies and television. Here to talk to you about two movies that Glenn has reviewed in the past couple of weeks, and they absolutely suck. The movies, not his reviews. The first is the Mauritanian, an Amazon Prime released true story that serves as a critical examination and condemnation of US government policy post-September 11. Sounds like an Oscar-attracting film, doesn't it? But it just isn't. It stars Tahar Rahim, Jodie Foster, Shailene Woodley, Benedict Cumberbatch, and it sucks, according to Glenn. This is the true story of a man who was detained in America's infamous Guantanamo Bay camp without charge for a total of 14 years. It's downright outrageous, and the film really should be showing that in some kind of respectful light that makes for great cinema. It just doesn't work out that way. According to Glenn, a 2 stars out of 5-star review, where he said, despite its important subject matter and reliable performances, the Mauritanian misses the mark thanks to a bland and uninspired production design and a disjointed collection of editorial styles. It was produced by the team who made the films United 93, The Green Zone, and Captain Phillips, and perhaps what this film is missing, and those films each have, is the presence of director Paul Greengrass at the helm. I imagine he would have delivered a sucker punch of a film, Glenn says, as opposed to a proverbial patchwork quilt that's frayed at the seams. The film is directed by Kevin MacDonald, whose name comes with a certain amount of prestige, having earned accolades from films such as Touching the Void, The Last King of Scotland, and State of Play. Unfortunately, 2 out of 5 stars for that film. If you're interested in seeing The Mauritanian, it will be streaming on Amazon Prime from March 24th. The next film that Glenn reviewed is another on paper sounding awesome film. Stars Armie Hammer, Gary Oldman, Evangeline Lilly, who I know Glenn is a huge fan of, and it's another film inspired by true events. It tells 3 interconnecting stories set amidst America's opioid epidemic, so it's another very important sounding topic ripe for cinema discussion, but nope, and I mean nope, it has half a star out of 5 by Glenn. This may be one of the worst. I can't remember right now another film that had half a star. Maybe it was by Glenn as well. Glenn, you ruthless man, he wrote in his review, if you go into Crisis anticipating another Sicario, be prepared to be sorely disappointed. You will need to lower your expectations exponentially, and when you reach the murky depths of a movie like Formula 51, yeah, keep heading south. There is little to no redeeming qualities to this uninspired and an insipid mess. It's a miracle that it hasn't been fast-tracked to the back end of a streaming service. Half a star out of 5. You need to read that review. You need to read all our reviews. You need to go to ScreenRealm.com. Thanks so much for having me. I'm out of here. See ya.
You get line, I get oh honey. You get line, I get oh babe. You get line, I get oh.
lake runs dry, honey? What are you gonna do when the lake runs dry, babe? Well, what are you gonna do when the lake runs dry? Sit on the bench and watch crawdads die, honey. Sugar baby mine. You get a line, I get a pole, honey. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. You get a line, I get a pole. We go down to that crawdad hole, honey. Sugar baby mine. Now yonder come a man with a sack on his back, honey. Yonder come a man with a sack on his back, babe. Yeah, yonder come a man with a sack on his back and fit no crawdads in that sack. Oh, honey, sugar baby mine. You get a line, you get a line, I get a pole, honey. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. Yeah, you get a line, I get a pole. We go down to that crawdad hole, honey. Sugar baby mine. I heard that duck say to the drake, honey. I heard that duck say to the drake, babe. I heard that duck say to the drake, there ain't no crawdads in this lake, oh honey. Sugar baby mine. Oh, you get a line, I get a pole, honey. Hey, you get a line, I get a pole, babe. Yeah, you get a line, I get a pole. We go down to that crawdad hole, honey. Sugar baby mine. You get a line, you get a line, I get a pole, honey. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. You get a line, I get a pole. We go down to that crawdad hole, honey. Sugar baby, my I said, honey, sugar baby, mine. Honey, sugar baby, mine.
Something a little bit folksy for you there. That was Crawdad by the Duck Down Pickers. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't even heard of. I don't know what a crawdad is.
Well, they are a Victorian folk band featuring none other than Clayton Jacobson,
Right.
who we are about to hear from. Before that, a big thank you to Guillermo for finding an alternative way to deliver his segment. Visit screenrun.com and get behind what they do up there in Sydney. So, Ben, let's talk about Clayton for just a little moment. You're no stranger to his work. Yeah, in fact, you were instrumental in getting a particular movie of that he was involved with onto DVD, and we've spoken about it before. Do you want to talk about that for a moment?
You talking about Smoke 'em if you got 'em?
Sure am. I sure am.
Yeah, well, because he went to he and Ray Bosley went to film school together,
They did.
and yeah, they made this. I don't know what. It's not a short, but it's not a feature. It's
It's a long short film.
It's a long short film. It's 48, 50 minutes long, and it's a end of the world, a kind of party that takes place at the end of the world just before a kind of a nuclear meltdown. And the film opens with what's his name? John Flouse.
Yes.
John Flouse in bed, and like the alarm goes off, and the alarm turns on the radio, and the radio basically says, "Yeah, the world's about to
It's like
end."
a countdown.
And he kind of just like ignores it, and then he looks out his window, and
Boom.
the bomb hits.
It's
That
a,
is a,
wonderful, wonderful film. I was so glad that you guys got that up and running onto the DVD format, because to watch that on the big screen
Yeah.
was something else. That was a really special night. And we talk a little bit about that. So I do also want to mention the fact that he had something to do with Houseboat Horror as well.
He did indeed. He edited both films.
And we talk about that too. So you're in for a treat here. Without further delay, here is my conversation with Clayton Jacobson. Clayton Jacobson, how you going, mate?
I'm very well, very well. Loving in just the 2 seconds that we've been on this thing. I'm already madly in love with you. Any man that wears a hat and glasses as well as you do, and a beard and moustache, is a good friend of mine.
Well, I've been following your career, so I thought I'd prepare for the interview. Well, firstly, thanks for kicking back, mate. I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's safe to say all of us here at Good Movie Monday are. And I mean, you're no stranger to the folks at Monster Pictures who are involved with this podcast. So Ben Helwig, who co-hosts the show with me, was instrumental in getting Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em onto DVD.
Mate, I was so rapt to hear that. Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em is a fabulous cult movie that my good mate Ray Bosley, we grew up together. We were literally 5 doors away from each other, and we found each other as filmmakers. We've known each other since we were 2, basically. We went through film school together, and he made this wonderful film. And I was just so rapt that they were able to give it the platform it deserves, because it's a terrific movie.
It is a wonderful film. I was there for the launch of it when they presented it at Lido, I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great
film.
Because I think its original premiere was at the Capitol, and Ray was great. He'd spent days, I think, sort of hanging things around the cinema foyer, and skeletons, and I think there was a skeleton riding a bomb or something in the foyer. He really pulled out all the stops. It's great.
And of course, the other guy that's on the show with us is Jarrett Garn, who has done everything he can to get Houseboat Horror to a new audience.
Oh God, Houseboat Horror! Gee whiz! I got suckered into a panel on that, because that's funny. Houseboat Horror, for anyone that doesn't know, is a made for video, on video, literally the first video feature film made in this country by the sadly departed and ever dynamic Ollie Martin, and that was one of the first films I worked on coming out of film school. And oh man, that film owes me because I edited that film on weekends for about a year and a half, and
Wow.
it was all cut on a VHS editing system, and it was a strange world, that one, but it has been funny watching how it sort of entered the lexicon of sort of Australian cult films, because it is just so bad. Look, the good news is they knew it was bad when they were doing it. They were acutely aware of it.
That shit crazy. And for people that are listening or even watching, you also, of course, made Kenny and Brothers Nest. And I think Brothers Nest is the very type of film we need more of in this country.
Well, thank you. We loved it. That's the most fun I've had working on any production. Wasn't just because my big buffalo-headed brother was in it, but it was a lot of fun. We went into a lot of trouble. It was also just one of those classic, one location, small cast, the classic sort of, rules of making a low-budget film. But it was a really good script. It was great fun. I actually didn't want to be in it, to be honest with Shane. I wanted someone like Angus, Sampson to play the brother, and I wanted to direct. But my brother very cunningly sort of said, look, I won't do it if you don't play opposite me. And I think he clearly had some demons he wanted to release, and he was wanting to aim them squarely at me and not indirectly through some other actor. So okay, I'll do it.
I think the film is so much better off for you being in it, and it's you took it to places I was not expecting it to go. So and of course, Kenny is my all-time favorite Australian film. So
oh God, thank you. Again, another one of those fantastic moments that I wish we saw coming. We didn't. We thought we were making a glorified home movie, and our hope was that it would go out on DVD and probably be embraced by plumbers and their families. And if I was lucky, filmmakers that understood that I was sort of screwing with the form. I was trying to create a bit of a hybrid between observational documentary making and drama. And that was the in-joke for me, and also very earnestly wanting to make a portrait on a riff on decency, and a portrait of a man who really doesn't exist in the real world. I mean, we do need validation in our lives, and he is seemingly a human being that doesn't.
Well, yeah, I think because that and The Big Steal are my two favourite Australian films, and I think both of them sort of have that endearing quality that is rarely captured on film these days.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, a lot of it is based on a lot of Kenny is sort of a hybrid of my uncles and the kind of world I knew growing up in the western suburbs of Melbourne. I was often watching films about Australian sort of laconic characters, and they didn't feel like anyone I knew. They were they were the mindset and the work of, upper middle class comedians that were, for the most part looking down their nose, and we were laughing at them, not with them. And I always said to Shane and my father, who's a great movie buff, if I ever get to make an Australian comedy about that world, I want to make it with all the love and affection that I have for my uncles. And they weren't particularly well educated, but by God, you could not pull the wool over their eyes. They had street smarts, and they understood humanity in a way that was much, that they had much more acumen to survive the world than any professor or any sort of academic that I
and I think up until that point, most working class characters on Australian film were knucklemen. Really sort of rough around the edges.
Yes, yeah.
But how's this from Houseboat Horror to Dreamscreen? Like there's a
there's a segue. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. And maybe I'm being naive, but this feels like pioneering stuff to me. Can you describe what Dreamscreen is to people and how it works?
Yeah, well, Dreamscreen is it's sort of the technology's been getting a fair bit of press over the last year with the likes of Mandalorian, and I say that with biting my tongue slightly, only because I have been playing with this technology for 10 years. I first looked into this sort of thing back in 2009 when I made a series called Morty Coots with my brother, and we did a deal with Ubisoft where we were using gaming backgrounds to create, worlds that we could place actors in, and it was all predicated on the fact that I was doing ads at the time, and my son was playing an Xbox game, and I was working on this commercial where we had a character shrunken down onto a tabletop, and I wanted the camera to move a little bit, and those that were doing all the effects for me at the time said, come back in about 3 days' time, and I went, okay, no worries. Then I went home, and there's my son moving around in a 3D space in real time with his thumb. And I remember saying to my son as I walked past him, God, what I wouldn't give to put an actor in one of those, and heard myself say it. Went, well, hang on, maybe I can, And I was acutely aware that the image quality wasn't really up for the large screen or even a television, to be honest. So what I devised was the idea of epic storytelling on a small screen, being YouTube, right? So we contacted Ubisoft. They were into the idea, but we didn't have any of the technology that we have now, where we can track the camera in the background. I mean, tracking was around at that stage, but it wasn't available to us. Anyway, long story short, we did that. It sort of worked. Didn't really have much take up. People weren't really that sort of taken by the approach we used, and foolishly, YouTube really wasn't the place for it, because it was a very sort of Mel Brooks sort of sense of humor. And most of the people at that stage were 16-year-olds on YouTube wanting to look at, people just like themselves in a bedroom setting commenting on the world. So it kind of fell on deaf ears a little bit. Cut to 2019, and I've moved up to where I am now, which is out in the country on about 6 acres. And I've turned a 5-car garage into a film studio. Which isn't Dreamscreen. It's my own little film studio that I do tests and things out of.
Yeah.
And when I suddenly noticed that Unreal Engine was getting infinitely better at creating good quality, images, I thought maybe now's the time to try this again. So I brought in the help of an LED company. We put a 6-meter screen in my studio, and my son and I hacked into a Vive and into Unreal Engine and created what was the first iteration of Dreamscreen. And I was blown away. It took us about 3 days to approximate something that you could actually work with. Yeah. And we marked out a grid on the ground, and then we created a false grid in Unreal, and then we tried to match the two together. And when I could get the camera on set to be in sync with the grid, get the two grids to overlap each other, I knew that we were close. And but I couldn't get anyone interested in this technology at the time. No one. And we couldn't find anyone in the world that was doing anything like it. Cut to about a year later, and I was in LA doing some meetings and heard about the AR wall. And those guys need a plug, because they were actually the ones that were pioneering this kind of technology long before The Mandalorian. Anyway, long story short, I put it to rest. I went back to making films, and along comes the COVID, and I'm at it's March last year, and I'm about to get on a plane to go to Bulgaria to start shooting a film. We had Guy Pearce attached, and COVID hits, and it sort of blows everything out of the water. And the question was asked, can we do the film here now in Melbourne? And I said, no. It's set in New York. Bulgaria had a 4 blocks of, a Harlem setting, which we were going to use. I would need something like this Dreamscreen technology to make it work. And that got me thinking, well, if we're going to be locked in our homes for the next 2 or 3 years, this is actually the right kind of technology to get up and running. And then lo and behold, it started to sort of sprout up everywhere. It wasn't because of me, it was just, osmosis and, zeitgeist just took hold. And long story short, I put about 6 months into gearing up all of the tech for it, got some investors involved, brought a number of very smart people in, created a couple of really great partnerships with some very key people like Method Studios that did all the effects on Game of Thrones and what have you. And before we knew it, we were running tests with a 17.5-meter screen that was 5 meters high and with a full LED roof and 2 4x4 meter floating walls at Batman Studios in Coburg, and road testing and really trying to break the system to see what it can do and what it can't do. So what is it? It's basically a new technology that is a new spin on the old technology of back projection, front projection. The only difference being that we can now track the actual camera, and that data gets fed into Unreal Engine, where there's a virtual camera in a virtual world, and the two are completely linked together and in sync. So everything your actual camera does, the virtual camera does in a false world. You then spit that false world image onto the screen that the actor is in front of, and lo and behold, you've got parallax. It looks like you're moving around, but that's not the end of it. The real joy of virtual production, particularly with LED screens, is that it's a 4/5 lighting solution. The camera's only ever looking at 1/5 of the screen. The other 4/5 are creating ambient light, which wraps around the character and really sells the idea that they're in that space.
Absolutely. I reckon you've probably answered about 5 of my questions, all within that.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect. I guess, people that know your work up until this point probably wouldn't peg you for sort of a tech savvy kind of person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have. I mean, how far into this did you get before you were out of your depth and had to call a lot of other people in, or were you sort of on top of it the whole way?
Well, I've always had a love for the magic of filmmaking. It was 2001 that started it. I saw that when I was 9 years old. It wasn't when the film was released. It was re-released at the cinemas, and I saw it at the Track Cinema with Ray Bosley, who we were just talking about. And I was mesmerized by it and was fascinated in how it was made. And everything from Planet of the Apes to eventually Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, these kind of films, I became obsessed with how they made these films. And so Ray Bosley and we bought ourselves a Super 8 camera when I was about 9 or 10. And we spent most of our teens recreating a lot of the scenes out of those films. So, but we didn't have any of the tools. So we would make paper mache. I made a paper mache R2-D2. We made a Millennium Falcon. We blew them all up in our garage, and we'd get our parents to drive their cars into the garage and turn on the high beams. And that was our lighting,
Yeah.
So there was always a bit of a hands-on love of filmmaking. I've always loved the guerrilla style of filmmaking. And I love those solutions and I've always invested in these in the films I've done where, even in Brother's Nest, there are scenes in that where there are special effects that we did that if you had given them to a special effects supervisor, it would have cost you $8,000 and they would have gone to a lot of trouble and they would have built all sorts of fancy ways of having this rig. But, in my world, it's like, no, that's a piece of cardboard with a hole in it. You photocopy a bit of wallpaper. It's a simple shot gaffered to a post. That's the way I've always thought. But the other thing that's been saddled with that is my love of wanting to streamline filmmaking to put more control into the hands of directors. Just that thing of the dream to the realization I want to try and bring that time frame down from 10 years, because that's an awful long time between waking up with a dream and seeing and having an audience watch it. And people will often say to me, are you disappointed that, you know, that film never got made? And I go, well, I'm not disappointed for myself. I've seen it. It's just no one else has seen it. So it's a long-winded way of answering your question, but the answer to your question is there's always been a love affair of that stuff. So when I first started thinking about Dreamscreen, as I said, we'd already delved into it in certain sort of ad hoc ways. But I sort of did a very deep dive about 8 months ago and literally spent every day in lockdown researching as much as I possibly could about the technology. And then when I felt that I had enough understanding of what was needed, like a little bit like I know how a crane works. I know how a Steadicam works. I know, you know, what filters to use, how to best use a camera. You know, the advantages and disadvantages of certain lighting styles. But don't hand me a spanner and ask me to fix it. You know, ask me to pull the thing apart. I can't do that. So I certainly got to a point where I went, okay, now is the time to bring in the experts. And I just wanted to have enough of the language so that when I started talking to them about this crazy idea that I had, that they wouldn't just write me off as an idiot. And and thank God they didn't. And we were able to, you know, sort of corral a fantastic group of people that jumped on board. We had some great people working with us that had worked on Star Wars, a couple of Star Wars films, and, you know, done a lot of really amazing films. But they loved it because they're used to being part of this monster that is the sort of the Unreal Engine sort of background crews that, you know, when you go and watch those films and there's this blanket of names that come up, you know, and you go, oh my God, you know, they're used to being one of those kind of guys. But in our instance, they were a real hero. You know, they were on set with the crew. They were on set with the cast. They were the master and commander. We were looking behind the curtain and seeing the Wizard of Oz at play. And so we had some pretty smart guys sort of running the wall for us and helping us create some magic.
So what have you been producing lately with it primarily? Is like have you had a chance to make many projects, or is it sort of just in that infancy beforehand and you're ready to go?
Well, no, we are basically we're putting all of our energies into, you know, we really want to be the preeminent sort of facility here in Victoria, and as such we're building a studio that is you know, primarily set up just for that. So we're in the thick of dealing with you know, council permits and planning permits and commercial real estate agents. We've found a location that we really love, and we're just in the throes of doing the final deals on that. And so we had to pull down the rig that we had going, and we're now going to set up in this new location. And if all goes well, we'll be up and running within about 4 weeks, and that'll be a larger volume than the one we had if all goes well. So yeah, but really the tests that we did in November were very thorough. We spent 2 weeks really putting it through a total battery of the good, bad, and the ugly to see what it could and couldn't do, and we were blown away by just how you really do feel like a little demigod when you're in this. You know, it's like sort of walking into Cape Canaveral. You know, it's just all these tables with computers and very smart people all staring up at this screen, waiting for something magical to happen. And it is a very large television. You know, it's a 17 meter by 5 meter TV, and it really is. It's something to behold when you're in the studio. But more when it's working well. It really is incredible, even to the eye. You know, you've got to keep reminding yourself this isn't real. This is a window to another world, you know.
I would love to see that in action. I don't know if you know, there's a thing called the Digital 25, and that's a list of 25 leading visionaries and pioneers as determined by the Producers Guild of America and Variety magazine. I think directors like Brett Leonard and James Cameron are examples of some of those 25. Mate, if they revisit this list, surely you're a contender.
Well, I think there are others that have been doing it before me. I mean, there are some great volumes around the world. There's one in Munich that's really kicking ass, and you know, the guys at ILM are doing a pretty amazing job. But you know, the good news is we have been noticed by Epic. They are very, very excited by what we're doing, and they have given us they've given us access to their LA labs, and so we're part of the inner sanctum there, which is fantastic. So we're getting good support, and we're wrapping up the last of our R&D, and then if all goes well, we'll be up and running within a month. So
wow,
yeah.
Well, if ever you do a sequel to Kenny, those crowd scenes will be much easier.
They will, yeah. It's actually it would be funny if the first thing we shot was actually a row of toilets. They would be very apt. Yeah.
Well, mate, this is exciting stuff. Good on you for sort of being on the front foot in Australia with it. People can visit dreamscreenaustralia.com or find you on the social medias, Facebook and whatnot, just to see how it works. The videos are incredible.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're trying to put up enough stuff to sort of give people a window into it. It is a new technology. It does kind of baffle people, and in a weird sort of way, that's a backhanded compliment because the end results are very believable, and so people do struggle to work out where the magic begins and ends, and that's what's exciting about it. And I must say, with all of there are new iterations to Unreal Engine that are coming out this year that will be a whole other ball game. Very exciting stuff that where it's sort of all heading, and that idea of realism is really going to come into its own, I think, in the next year. So it is a great time to get into this space, particularly with COVID and what have you. It is a very COVID friendly sort of technology, but it's just it's a great toy. It just it's and the one thing that there are a lot of things that I didn't expect to come out of it. Ray Bosley came along, and I actually threw him in front of the lens on a couple of shots, and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, this is a terrific gift to writers. And I said, really? He said, look, sky's the limit now. I mean, this gives us as writers a chance to do things when we're not going to be as hemmed in by the restrictions that producers very, logically have to, enforce on a writer when they're putting together a series or a feature film. This technology does really give you the ability to do the unthinkable.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Well, thanks for sharing that with us because, a lot of people who listen to our show or watch these videos probably have no idea what it is if they're not sort of on your Facebook, and it's just a massive thing for our local industry. So, and I think, you deserve all the accolades you get.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size. We're going to lay some trivia on you today. Some stuff you may not have known. Some stuff that we're going to stump Glenn on.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll go first. Mine's a twofer. So behind me, you can see I've switched up from last season. This is the new set.
He got the people to come in and fix that.
I got the money. We did some upgrades. Darkman's behind me. So this is a twofer about my favorite director, Sam Raimi. The first one's fairly simple. Most people know that Darkman is a result of him never making what, Chad? Chad's taking a drink.
The Shadow.
There you go. The Shadow. He always wanted to do The Shadow as a film. I didn't know. And then he went on to do Darkman, which has a lot of hints of The Shadow. Correct, gentlemen?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
I didn't know the second part. So when Tim Burton left Batman, did you know Sam Raimi was really tried to get the Batman gig?
No.
I didn't know that either. He tried really hard. In fact, he might have came close, but they ended up going with Joel Schumacher, which we all know. And I find it fascinating to think, what would have Sam Raimi's Batman looked like?
I think we would have got Scarecrow sooner.
Yeah, we probably would have. And he is doing Doctor Strange into the multiverse of horror, whatever it's called, which I'm excited to see. And they announced today Danny Elfman's doing the music. Yeah, all right.
So there used to be somebody that was a power player in Hollywood, and his name was Harvey Weinstein. And
never heard of him.
He got the opportunity to import a film by Hayao Miyazaki called Princess Mononoke. He announced that to make it more marketable to an American audience, he was going to edit it, to which the director, Hayao Miyazaki, sent him a katana with one message on it: no cuts.
It's a great story.
It's awesome.
That's,
Look it
that's
up,
right up
folks.
there with my Orson Welles one. You tell Ted Turner to keep his goddamn Crayolas away from my film when it's talking about Citizen Kane.
Yeah, so if you've never seen that movie, imagine how it could have been cut by Harvey Weinstein, and now you know why it wasn't.
I'm going to do a quick twofer. So my first one is one of my favorite movies is Roger Rabbit. Bob Hoskins was actually not their first pick to play Eddie Valiant. It was Bill Murray. And Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg mentioned that in an interview years later. And the reason they couldn't cast Bill Murray is Bill Murray uses a phone service, and they left a voicemail, and Bill Murray never got it. And he actually didn't know he missed this opportunity till years later, and it's actually one of his biggest regrets. My second one is a may or may not be true, depending on who is telling the story. Steven Seagal's classic Out for Justice. They were shooting this movie. Steven Seagal was being a renowned dickhead, as he normally is. And the stunt director on that piece of movie, named Gene LaBelle, was tired of his antics, and Steven Seagal kept bragging that he cannot be choked out, he cannot be hurt. So Gene LaBelle proved him wrong, got him in a chokehold, and Steven Seagal promptly shit himself.
Hey, can I throw out one more quick one?
Yep, make it quick.
How do we know Ewoks are called Ewoks? Because it's never actually said in anywhere in Return of the Jedi. Watch it again.
All right, that's been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
There they go, doing their thing, being all American and stuff. Don't they have anything better to do? You can listen to the full-length Bonehead Weekly podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Go to their social media pages and like what they do. And before, you heard our conversation with Clayton Jacobson, who is not only a local legend, but a damn nice guy. And he's promised to return to the show at a later date, so fingers crossed we can get him back at the desk sometime soon. And you can catch the full video version of that conversation on YouTube and Facebook tomorrow. And then on Thursday night, we have a treat for you. We've got a special rapid fire video with Clayton and I having a bit of fun talking about all kinds of silly stuff. And now let's reel off some more fun and useless facts.
Trivia?
Yes. Let me just go through a list of celebrities that have killed people.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick. He famously got into an accident in Ireland when he was driving down the wrong side of the road and killed two people in an oncoming car.
And I believe Jennifer Grey was in the car at the time because they were dating.
She was.
And I always wondered, was she
traumatized?
I was going to say, was she pleasuring him at the time? Wow. Is that why he wasn't paying attention to where he was going?
That's scandalous.
Scandalous.
John Huston also hit a woman with a car.
Rebecca Gayheart hit someone with a car.
Mate, what is it with these lunatics?
I'm just thought of Urban Legends 2 or...
William S. Burroughs shot his wife dead in a game of drunken William Tell.
I thought it was the same as the Mark Spector thing, and that's where Mark Spector got the idea. Like, oh, he's just
Phil Spector, you mean?
Phil Spector. So he's cleaning the gun, and it accidentally went off in her face.
Well, he got
after she had threatened me.
William S. Burroughs got completely acquitted on the fact that it was a drunk game of William Tell, and both were participating.
Right.
Which is interesting.
That,
qualifies.
I just feel like it's like the Cliff Booth statement in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, anyone kills anyone by accident, you go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
Well, Snoop Dogg, famous for his drive-by shooting, later acquitted.
I didn't know the Snoop Dogg. I always just thought he was like the fun cousin of the guys doing the drive-bys.
I remember. No, he was on. He had a big murder trial back in the mid-90s. And when I first went to LA, I was with my family and we were doing the classic Hollywood tour. And we were driving past the Viper Room, Johnny Depp's old nightclub where River Phoenix passed away. So they're giving us that information. This is the Viper Room where, River Phoenix famously passed away. Oh, geez, have a look to your left. It's Snoop Dogg, the potential murderer. And this is like a loudspeaker and there's Snoop Dogg just walking down. And he was just walking down the road. That was hilarious.
It was because it was way before Deliveroo existed. Or Menulog. He couldn't, he had to go and get his own food.
That's right. And of course, your Phil Spectors and your Robert Blakes,
Yeah.
All right, what do you got next?
Check this out,
All
man.
right.
Did you know that porn star Ron Jeremy has a cameo in Ghostbusters?
I did. He's right at the end in the crowd.
It's when was it William Atherton shuts down the power, the things for the ghost containment unit, and all the ghosts explode out.
And he's behind the barricade.
And he's behind the barricade, just looking up. And you're like, there's just did you know that there are guys with huge dicks just wandering the streets?
It's like that little sleazy cameo, Lloyd Kaufman popped up in the Rocky, and that kind of thing.
But he was, because apparently that is kind of always been Ron Jeremy's thing. Like, he loves movies, and he's always trying to get roles in them. Like, he thinks he wants to be a serious actor, and he's it's been a major disappointment his entire life that he can only get into the.
The real shame about Ron Jeremy is we can't really talk about him anymore.
Can't we?
No, he's like life in prison or whatever.
Ron Jeremy is.
Yes, his big rape allegations and his convictions and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you might want to Google that one after that.
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, there's a potential he's never coming out of jail.
Right, because he was always known as like the
fun porn star.
Well, no, but he was in a couple of documentaries and stuff I've seen. He was like, they thought of him as the wealthiest porn star in the business because he saved all his money. Like, he didn't live a life of
He carried around with Safeway bags with his clothes in them.
With his clothes and stuff in it. But he also would do anything for a friend. Like, there's a couple of porn actresses and stuff who were arrested for drugs and stuff like that. And Ron was the one who would come down to the jail at 2:00 in the morning and bail them out.
He was spoken highly of, and that is true. But in between edits, you might want to look that one up. Well, there you go.
So once again, here are my fingers, and here's the pulse. Here are my fingers shoved all the way up my ass, about as far away from the pulse as they possibly can be.
All right, next piece of trivia. We spoke about John Huston a few minutes ago. On the set of African Queen, Audrey Hepburn protested against his and Humphrey Bogart's alcoholism by only drinking water. And it turns out everyone in the crew and cast got sick from the local water, but those two didn't.
But those two. Although, because isn't it? I thought it was in African Queen that that's where Audrey Hepburn got bitten by a bug and got malaria or a mosquito or whatever, and that's why, like, from that point on, her voice did that. Wow, fine.
We're talking about. Oh, it was Catherine Hepburn. Did I say Audrey Hepburn though? I think I said Audrey Hepburn.
I don't know. I knew what I knew.
Yes.
I'd heard that bit of trivia before, so I wasn't paying that much.
You just heard the Hepburn.
The Hepburn thing, but it's definitely Catherine Hepburn. But
yes.
I heard that was the movie that she had this. I thought she had a stroke or something, and
it sounds like she got DT.
Yeah, and she's like, her voice started wavering and became a kind of
caricature almost. Yeah. Your turn.
Well, this is one of my favorite bits of trivia of all time, movie trivia. And I believe it's T-Bone Burnett was the music supervisor on The Big Lebowski.
Right.
And they wanted to use Rolling Stones' song Dead Flowers during the end credits.
Yep.
And originally, Alan Klein, who's a former Rolling Stones manager, said, yeah, if you want to use it, it's $150,000. And Burnett said, please just come down and watch the movie. Like, that's too much. We can't afford it, but please come down and watch the movie. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yep.
You'll want to give us the song.
Yep.
And so Klein's watching the movie, and it gets up to the part where the dude is like, the fucking Eagles. I hate the fucking Eagles. And Alan stands up and says, yep, all right, you got the song. You can have it for free. And then I heard this other bit that apparently really pissed Glenn Fry off. And said he ran into Jeff Bridges once, and Jeff Bridges is like, I don't remember what he said, but it was pretty intense, and my asshole tightened up.
Oh man, that's good. James Wood, he fired his agent when he found out that the agent passed on Reservoir Dogs without telling him.
Wow.
Well,
of course, yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I mean, I reckon that's something that would happen all the time. That
on their behalf, the agent, and quite often probably for the better.
Yeah, well, but also, like, they would have gone, well, who is this Tarantino really? Like, he's done a couple of rewrites. It's a first-time film. They want him to work for scale, and James has told me, don't bother me with this kind of shit.
And the other thing, I would get the feeling that it would probably be before Harvey Keitel came on board as a producer, because I would imagine the only role that would be fit for James Woods would be the Harvey Keitel character.
Yeah.
Really? So, yeah, it's interesting. You're right, though. Like, yeah, he was a nobody. Nobody even knew him until Pulp Fiction came along.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. There's that.
I think, Because what was it? Danny DeVito heard about Reservoir Dogs and came to see him in the edit suite.
Right.
And that's how, because he was one of the, he's like, okay, so we can't get involved in this one, it's done.
Yeah, next one.
Yeah, but we'd love to be involved in the next one, and that's why Danny DeVito is a producer on Pulp Fiction.
And Samuel L. Jackson passed on the black character. You know, the cop that's training Tim Roth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was supposed to be Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, right.
That's why he was in Pulp Fiction, because he regrets passing
on it.
Yeah, it's like it's the Reservoir Dogs is the movie that just he had to prove himself on Tarantino. He had no history in film other than like a couple of shorts. Or
No, he had made that feature.
My Best Friend's Wedding or whatever. No, whatever that was called.
Yeah.
What was that called? Or Destiny Turns on the Radio? Was that it?
No. That actually got made. Destiny Turns on the Radio. I think it's something like that. Apparently, it is available on YouTube. You can see it.
Yes.
But it was, it was one of those ones where shot over.
I think it was My Best Friend's Wedding.
It's something like that. I mean, there's no one sits around singing Dionne Warwick or anything like that in the Tarantino version of My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh, jeez.
No one does say a little prayer for you.
What do you got?
Did you know that NASA... This is a great bit of trivia. NASA show Armageddon as part of their management training program.
What?
Yeah, they show it to new managers, and they have to watch the film and spot as many errors as they can. Apparently, there are at least 160 factual mistakes in.
I mean, that's
in
really,
Armageddon. I mean. Not one of them, and one of them isn't Steve Buscemi riding the rocket.
They should have used Disney's Rocketman.
Yeah, I mean that one's 100% factually accurate.
What a brilliant movie too!
What a classic! Is it Harlan
Williams? One of the great top 10 comedies of all time, in my opinion. And if you go to our YouTube channel and type in Rocketman or just fake Shemp Rocketman into Google, Harlan Williams did a nice little commentary for us. On Rocketman, and it's one of our highest viewed videos. There's thousands of hits on that one. Every week I get notifications of comments, like it's a big one. So he starts off with hey Australia, fake shemp. I was trying to describe him to someone the other day, and they couldn't peg it, so I just said, "You've seen Dumb and Dumber?" And I just went, you'll do what's good for you if you're not.
He's 6 minute abs, right? He's like 6 minute abs in There's Something About Mary.
Yeah. And he's
5 minutes. The fuck you talking about, man? Get out the car. You're fucking fired.
He's the best friend in Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah.
Legend. His podcast is fantastic. Okay, so you just went.
So it's your turn.
All right. In the movie Swingers, the police that you hear, there's police sirens in one particular scene. They are the sirens of the real police coming to the set to shut it down because they were shooting without a permit.
Wow.
Yes. So they got the sound effect in and then just packed up their shit and left.
I heard that in the original iteration of Swingers, the Vince Vaughn character is the one getting all the girls.
Right.
And then I think Friends told Jon Favreau, like, you're crazy. Like, you've got 2 love scenes in this film and you're not in either of them. Like, what is wrong with you?
How far that man has come.
Yeah.
Like both, but Jon Favreau particularly, just wouldn't have expected his trajectory.
I hate to say it, but I do follow Comedy Central UK on Instagram, and it means I see a lot of Friends memes. Yeah. But one popped up today that was when he gets on the show and he's a millionaire who wants to become a UFC fighter, and it's just this huge guy beating the crap out of him, and I was very satisfying.
I think the best thing he's done is Chef. I just adore that.
Chef is a great film.
And the TV show that came after it's fantastic. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't, no.
So it's almost a reality show. It's a cooking show.
Right.
And the guy that created all the food for the film, behind the scenes, he's a real chef, he's on the show with Jon Favreau, and then they invite famous celebrities to come and recreate these dishes. Right. And you've got Gwyneth Paltrow, you've got a lot of Robert Downey Jr., a lot of the Marvel people. And the funniest one, first episode, is Gwyneth Paltrow, and he says to her, she says a story. Someone said, you were great in this movie. And she goes, I wasn't even in it. And he looks at her and goes, you were in it a lot. And she's like, was I? He's like, yep, I was in it too. So she has no recollection of these Marvel movies that she's made. But they left that.
It's probably like the Natalie Portman stuff in Thor Ragnarok. They just cut it around from the other movies and were like, there's a very canon
Yes.
/ Roger Corman / Al Adamson thing to do. Like,
Yep.
we'll just use that footage from this one.
Makes sense.
And as long as we throw some money at her, I'm sure she'll be fine.
Okay, we're about to throw to Adam. You got one more before we do?
Yes. Did you know that? So we already talked about Die Hard, and I mentioned that Die Hard was I mentioned that Die Hard, like right at the start of the show, right at the head of the show, I dropped in that Die Hard was actually a failed script for Commando 2.
Correct.
But did you know that Bruce was the 7th choice for Die Hard? Like because at the time the only thing he'd really done was moonlighting.
And I believe no one backed him in because he was a weedy little skinny kind of character.
Yeah, they thought this guy is no way is this guy an action hero. But so Arnie, Stallone, Burt Reynolds, Harrison Ford, and Mel Gibson all knocked it back.
Yeah.
Before Bruce Willis took it and then became one of the biggest action stars in the world.
The only one of those I can envision in that role would probably be Mel Gibson. Like I mean, Burt Reynolds, I certainly can't see him play.
Yeah, no. Or
but Frank Sinatra. Frank
It was
Sinatra.
supposed to be a Frank Sinatra vehicle, but a lot less kind of actiony, I think, for that version. But like I can see all of them in it if it was just the action stuff. The Bonnie Bedelia stuff. The whole reason for that's the part that I can't see.
Yeah.
You know them doing still it would be painful watching Arnie when Arnie tries to relate to women in movies.
Doesn't
it just for me it's like that scene in Jingle All the Way where he tells his wife that she's his number one customer. It's just like that's what it's like.
Yep. He relates to alpacas a lot more.
He does.
Yeah.
He is pretty good. I thought he actually did a pretty good job with Sharon Stone, admittedly, in Total Recall. I thought that actually, that was a lot more believable.
Is that before or after he throws her across the room?
Yeah, no, she started it.
Oh, dude.
She did try and kill him.
I'm enjoying this. This is fun. And that brings us all the way to Adam's segment. So let's see what 5-star masterpiece he's dishing up this week.
Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam's Just Seen with another Good Movie Monday recommendation. Now we're doing trivia this episode, and my little bit of trivia is about the film that I'm about to review. I wouldn't so much call it a review as a gush. I'm going to gush about this one. I had the luxury of going to see all 3 Lord of the Rings back to back on the weekend. I went to the Astor Theatre and I went and done it. And yes, I will admit, this is not the first time that I have done that marathon. Now, I am obsessed with Lord of the Rings, mainly the films, even more so than the books. And surprisingly enough, I wasn't initially. My younger brother, who has had to suffer through watching every goddamn film that's ever been made, went and saw Fellowship before me. I don't know why. I just thought it was going to be some kind of Harry Potter-esque rip-off, not very good kind of thing. And even though I really liked The Frighteners, actually I really liked all of Peter Jackson's previous films, I just wasn't really that jazzed. And I remember my brother coming home and he looked me dead in the eye. And I'm always fascinated when anyone goes to movies, what they think about it. And I said, how was it? And he just, unblinkingly looked at me and he said, it is the best movie I have ever seen. So I had to go and check it out, and I went and saw it the next day, and then I went and saw it the day after that, and I went and saw it the day after that. And so I became addicted to The Fellowship of the Ring, which is, I think, easily the best of the trilogy. Watching them back to back, it was very surprising to me how much the other 2 pictures are just battle pictures, so they're kind of like war movies set in Middle-earth, and if that's what you're about, and I am about that, then they're rock and roll. But Fellowship to me has got the most romance, it's got the best subplots, it's got the coolest kind of introduction of characters, it's got amazing pacing, and I really, really like all of these little tricks that Jackson puts into the film, these filmmaking things, these forced perspectives, these props, these little Easter eggs, if you will, that you're watching, how did they quite pull that off? But one of the more interesting elements of trivia that I find about this movie is that Viggo Mortensen, who is so cool here as Aragorn, was not the original choice for that role. And so Stuart Townsend was Aragorn, and even filmed, I think, about 2 weeks. And I was even talking to a producer about this film the other day, and they were saying, that they had to change things up, and that Viggo came in and never really met the director and had just talked over the phone and basically jumped into what I think is, basically the most badass guy in all of fantasy cinema. But I saw the 4K restorations of Rings. Rings are currently on Netflix, so you can check them out, but I highly recommend you go to the cinema and check out this 4K restoration. My one complaint that I thought I was going to have is that maybe, you know, with this much distance between these films and us now, that the effects might look a little bit hokey and it might tarnish my view of these, but honestly it did the opposite. It really, you know, it put in crystal clear focus just how incredible Jackson's integration of digital effect and practical effects is. I mean, these movies just look and sound unbelievable. So Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring is as good as movies get, beyond 5 stars, 10 stars out of 5. Go, if you haven't seen it, my God, what are you even doing listening to this podcast? And if you haven't seen them for a few years, like I haven't, see the 4K remaster, you will not regret it.
Adam Ross, ladies and gentlemen, chairman of the Australian Film Critics Association. He also co-hosts a weekly show on Ticker TV called Ticker Streaming, and he is now also on a weekly segment on Triple M Radio. Go give his Facebook page, Adam's Just Seen, a like. Throw him some love, because if he becomes famous, we still claim him. That takes us into the home stretch, dude, and got some more prizes to give away, but let's try to bang out just a couple more pieces of trivia first. What else you got there?
Did you know that Sean Connery wore a toupee in every single Bond film?
That's incredible.
Never had he was bald. He was bald way before. I think he was bald at like 18 or something like that.
He was bald at birth.
He was
Well, he
already,
probably was.
losing his hair. But considering, and even in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, considering how many fist fights he has in all of those films, the glue or the tape that they used must have been pretty spectacular.
What's your favourite Sean Connery wig?
Well,
do you like the crop top like from Hunt for Red October style with the beard, or do you prefer the Rock when he's got sort of it's kind of the same? Well, before he cuts
and
his hair
Entrapment, like I do love, and Finding Forrester, like I do like that haircut
with the quiff,
the kind of the almost pompadour type thing, with the white beard. Like that is my favorite Connery look. But I really love the what's the Bond one where he returns to it and it's not a real Bond.
Never Say Never Again.
Never Say Never Again, where he's got like he's stolen Frank Sinatra's wig, and it's like the helmet of hair, and he's got the really obvious fake tan. Like he's totally. It's like, are you just taking the piss out of Frank Sinatra in this?
I realized that I described his hair as a quiff. That's an entirely different thing.
That's a coif. A coif.
Okay.
Yeah, quiff is. Well, it's a coif by any other name.
This is kind of trivia. Beverly Hills Cop started a trend of Beverly Hills titled movies. So, at around that time, within the space of maybe 2 or 3 years, you had Troop Beverly Hills Vamp, Beverly Hills Brats, Beverly Hills Madam, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills.
And a film that you mentioned last week, Beverly Hills Ninja.
Well, that came about 10 years later. But you know, what would Beverly Hills Ninja be, you know, if it wasn't
in Beverly Hills? Like, Malibu Ninja does not have the same ring to it.
Well, Jamie Kennedy went there, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I found that interesting. I do like a movie with Beverly Hills in the title. Something about it. I mean, you don't get that in Australia. You don't get, like, we've got Baronia Boys, I suppose, but...
I've always wanted to live in Beverly Hills, not so much for Baronia.
No, West of Sunshine, there's another one. Death in Brunswick. Yes, anyway. Ben, what do you got next?
I was literally still trying to think of another Australian movie based on a place.
Well, we can do that. We could fashion a whole show out of that.
Did you know that the role of Ripley in Alien, Sigourney Weaver was... Technically, she was the first choice, but they were thinking at the time, there were 2 actors in contention. One who had done nothing before, really. That was Sigourney Weaver. The other one was Meryl Streep.
Wow.
But they decided not to offer it to her because literally the day before they were going to talk to her, her long-term partner died.
Yep.
And they're like, well, maybe it's not super appropriate to be...
So that was John Cassavetes? Not John Cassavetes.
I have no... I don't know.
Yeah, you know...
Is it Cassavetes? Nick Cassavetes?
No. Keith is going to kill me. You know, freaking Godfather, Deer Hunter...
The other Cassavetes, Nick Cassavetes, isn't it?
No. John Cazale. I think that's his name.
Right. Oh, yes. She was going out with John Cazale.
Yeah, and he died, and she was bedside with him.
With Alfredo?
Yes, Alfredo. Yes.
Well, yeah.
In the Spanish version.
Never go against the family.
Yep. I'm glad I got there in the end.
Yeah. He was fucking cocktail waitresses 2x2.
Yeah, no, so she was bedside with him.
You don't come to Vegas and talk to a guy like Mo Green like that. Jesus, Michael. That's my John Cazale impression.
Let's just give away some stuff.
Sure.
Here's your chance to win a mystery pack. It's up for grabs this week. We've got a collection of prizes from several of our partners. Which partners to be exact? Well, you have to win to find out. Be the first to email us the answer to this question on last week's show. What was the one word that I was particularly fond of that was taboo?
Do you want me to say it?
No, I don't. No. I'm going to just...
Do you want me to give the answer? Like, I actually... it took me a second, but I was like, I remember this one.
All you have to do, send your answer to giveaways@fakeshamp.net. The second and third correct answers that are submitted will also score a pass to the Lunar Drive-In. So it's pretty fucking easy. Ben, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you fucking idiot.
That was a decent amount of prep put into this show, should we say?
Oh, look, I mean, like a solid 8 hours when I should have been working.
Well done. Thanks to our mates from all over the joint. You got Jarrett from Monsterfest, Guillermo from Screen Realm, Adam from AFCA. You've got Joe, Chad, and James from Bonehead Weekly. Muchas gracias to you for listening. Please keep doing so. Don't forget to check our midweek videos on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow and Thursday. We're going to leave you with something special. Now, this is particularly great. So this is Clayton Jacobson covering Johnny Cash's version of Hurt. In and of itself, that's fantastic, but listen all the way to the end because there is something very special. Maybe a cameo from Clayton's old man, Ron Jacobson. It's an absolute moment. Thanks again. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, that old familiar sting. Try to kill it all the way, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. And you could have it all. My empire rebelled, and I would let you down. I won't make you hurt. I'll wear this crown of thorns upon my liar's chair, full of broken thoughts that I cannot repair. Beneath the stains of time, the feeling disappears. You are someone else, but I am right still here. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. And you could have it all. to go?
Well, you should never play that song again.
What?
It is so fucking depressing. I can't believe how depressed I am.
Were you listening to those lyrics?
Yes.
You didn't find that uplifting?
I found it downlifting.